Okay, so today we are focusing in on, again, essential question number 4, what kind of organization could be used in this form of writing? I also believe this ties into essential question number 3, how do I make my informational writing more interesting to my readers? And the learning target that is concerning is organization number 2, preview what's to follow using a thesis statement. So please date this November 2nd, so 11/2. And now you have 3 total learning targets that you can utilize. So at this point, if you're ready to submit a type 3 response, you can start doing that because we have 3 targets to pick from. So preview what's to follow using a thesis statement is what we're going to focus in on today. Today's handout first starts with a brief explanation of what a thesis statement is. And just a quick tip. This is just like the outlining lesson from yesterday. This is something that you can utilize and you will be utilizing in your reading class and in all your classes, because thesis statement writing is something you do in science and you do it in social studies and you do it anywhere you're writing anything, because you want to have one controlling point that establishes your topic and gives multiple points that you're going to address in your essay. Now, if you have established an outline already, you're going to want to utilize that outline to create and write your main points of your essay into your thesis statement. I'll explain that in a minute. But first, I'm going to practice making a thesis statement with some already established questions. So if you're using a prompt from one of the prompt packets, or if you're answering a text-dependent analysis questions in Ms. Allman's class, your thesis statement should pretty much be a one-sentence answer to what your question's asking. So in this case, we see, think about the fact that newspapers are becoming less popular these days and write about the places people get their current events news from instead. One I came up with was, newspapers have become less popular because people now use social media platforms such as Facebook and Snapchat, TV, to get their current events. I have multiple topics that I'm going to go, or multiple points that I'm going to go into. I'm going to go into social media. I'm going to go into television in the body paragraphs of my essay. And I've made a statement that answers what my topic is about as well. Number 2 says, if you can meet any famous person in the world, who would it be and what would you want to talk to them about? For this one, for a guiding thesis, I established my topic. Abraham Lincoln would be an interesting person to meet. And then I include my main points and discuss his political views, his war experiences, and his time as president. So I've developed 3 points that I would talk about in my body paragraphs. In this one, the question was, why are firefighters and police officers often called heroes? The thesis statement I've created here is, firefighters and police officers are often called heroes due to the ways in which they serve the community. This one's a little more broad. The multiple points is tied in with this word ways. So obviously I'm not going to have just one body paragraph. I'm going to have each of my topics in my body paragraph be a different way that they serve the community. Number 4, what are some measures that kids can take to be safe on the internet? My response, or my thesis statement here, is kids can take several different measures to be safe online. Again, this is another one where I'm a little more vague. I said several different measures. That means each measure that I discuss is going to be a separate body paragraph in my essay. And then here's another one that has multiple points. And it's, what hobby can you think of that would make a good occupation when you grow up? And my possible thesis statement is, cooking would make an excellent occupation because it inspires creativity, the jobs are endless, salary is excellent, and there's a potential of being an entrepreneur. So I have 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, and 4 points. When you're first getting your thesis statement down, you need to be okay with knowing it's a rough draft. In other words, you may edit and revise it later to make it sound better and better. What you lock in as your thesis statement doesn't necessarily have to be the thesis statement that you use as the end point. You may change it, you may revise it, you may edit it to make it better and better, but it does need to be one strong sentence that serves as the final sentence of your introduction, and that final sentence needs to establish your conflict or establish your topic and include multiple points that you're going to address in your essay. Going back to the outline I created from yesterday, I created these 3 subpoints. Our thesis statement is that final sentence in your introduction. It goes right there. It's almost better to construct your format of your paper before you even consider what your thesis statement is. Because if you look at my outline here, I have developed 1, 2, 3, 4 different points I'm going to get into in this informative piece on the writer's workshop. So now I can kind of use these points of my body paragraphs to be worded into my thesis, which is going to be the final sentence in my intro. So going back, maybe I'll say something about the writer's workshop. And again, I'm coming up with this right now, so I might have to edit and revise later, but I'm just getting the idea of that one strong sentence to control the whole point of my paper. The writer's workshop is a method that I've developed for my classroom and students have been enjoying the process. Okay, so my thesis statement is probably going to need a lot of work. It's not that strong. It starts with mentioning my topic. My topic is to describe the writer's workshop concept. So I said the writer's workshop's a method that I've developed for my classroom. This part where it says that I've developed for my classroom ties into the background, like why it needed to happen. It ties into what the areas are, and it also ties into the workshop in action. So although at first glance, it looks like one point, it actually ties into all 3 of my points here. And then my second part here, and students have been enjoying the process, ties into my student feedback section. So I've been able to cover in this thesis statement all of my areas that I'm going to mention in my body paragraphs. Do I like it right now? Not really, but maybe it's something that I can at least start with. It does focus in on my main topic, which is the writer's workshop, and it is focusing in on my points. So I can take this, write it into my introduction as my final sentence, and maybe go back in my editing and revising process and seeing if there's a better way to word it later. So as you develop your thesis statements, it is something I'm going to be looking for when I read your submitted type 3s and 4s responses. This is also a new, learning target that you can submit to see if you can get a 7, 8, 9, or 10 on for that particular sentence. That sentence needs to establish your topic and include your main points that you're going to address in your essay. There's a million ways of doing that. You may be more broad and say something like several different measures to be safe online and make it more broad, or you may be more specific, like this cooking one, and I have listed 1, 2, 3, 4 different topics that could be utilized. Or it may be a mix of both. Mine is sort of broad, but it's also sort of narrow with one of my points. But the thesis statement is that single controlling point, that last sentence of your introduction that establishes your topic and gives the main topics you're going to talk about in your body paragraphs.